My son's mother-in-law stood in my living room, looked around, and smiled. "This house is perfect for a young couple," she said. Everyone at the table nodded along. I took a sip of coffee, looked her straight in the eye, and asked one question. "Then why aren't they moving into yours?" The room went silent. Nobody laughed. Nobody had an answer. My son stared at his plate. The daughter-in-law suddenly needed more water. Even the mother-in-law, who had walked through my front door with the confidence of a property assessor, took a full 30 seconds to find her voice. I let the silence sit. People fill silence with the truth they were trying to hide. She finally recovered. Her townhouse was too small, she explained. 2 bedrooms, traffic noise, no real yard. Meanwhile, I had 3 bedrooms and lived alone. Family helps family, she said, holding her hands on my table like she was closing a sale. Here is what she didn't know. 2 days before that dinner, my neighbor had texted me a link. She thought I'd find it interesting, and I did. It was a rental listing. The mother-in-law's townhouse. Professionally photographed, freshly staged, posted at $2,400 a month. Available on the 1st. I didn't say anything about it at first. I wanted to see how far she would take the performance. She took it far. She talked about how hard things were for young couples now. How my late husband would have wanted me to be generous. She actually said that in my dining room, under a photograph of him. My son said nothing. Not a correction. Not a defense of me. Just silence, which told me everything about how many times this conversation had already happened without me in the room. So I picked up my phone, opened the listing, and slid it across the table. "If your place is too small for them," I asked, "why is it big enough for strangers at $2,400 a month?" Her face went through 3 colors. The daughter-in-law looked at her mother like she'd been handed a live grenade. And my son, my quiet, plate-staring son, finally spoke. "Mom, it was supposed to be temporary." Temporary. I asked him to define that word for me, because in my experience, temporary arrangements have no expiration date. They just become normal. He couldn't define it. So I asked the question I should have asked an hour earlier. What is actually going on? And it came out. All of it. They were 3 months behind on their mortgage. The adjustable rate had jumped and they'd kept spending like it hadn't. Both credit cards maxed, new furniture, a leased SUV, a lifestyle built for the people they wanted their friends to think they were. The bank had already sent the second notice, but that was only half of it. The plan, the real plan, the one they'd rehearsed before they ever rang my doorbell, was never just the kids moving in. She was coming too. All 3 of them, under my roof, rent-free, indefinitely, while she rented out her townhouse and pocketed the $2,400 a month. My house was going to absorb their consequences while her house generated her income. They hadn't come for dinner. They came to take the keys. I stood up and started collecting the plates because my hands needed something to do that wasn't shaking. My son followed me into the kitchen. He said they were drowning. He said I had the space. He said I always told him I'd help if he ever needed it. I told him there's a difference between help and rescue. Help is me sitting down with him and a budget. Rescue is me handing over the finish line of my entire life so 3 adults can keep pretending the race never happened. He asked if I was really going to let them lose the townhouse. I told him I wasn't letting anything happen. The math was happening. The math had been happening for 2 years while everyone at that table smiled through dinners and posted vacation photos. They left without dessert. The mother-in-law's goodbye didn't reach her eyes. The next morning I called my attorney. By the end of the month, the house was in a trust with conditions no dinner conversation could touch. Then I called the bank and had my name removed from an old car loan of my son's that I'd co-signed a decade ago. The last thread connecting my credit to his choices. 3 weeks later, their townhouse hit the market. Motivated sellers. It sold below what they owed, and the 3 of them moved in together after all. Just not into my house. Into her 2-bedroom townhouse. The one that was suddenly no longer too small, no longer too noisy, no longer available for $2,400 a month. Last week, my neighbor texted me again. There was a car parked on the street in front of the townhouse with a for sale sign in the window. The leased SUV was gone, and through the front window you could see boxes that still hadn't been unpacked, stacked in a hallway built for 1 person, now holding 3. My son called me yesterday. He didn't ask for money. He asked if I knew a good financial counselor. It was the first honest question he'd asked me in 2 years. Full story on the channel linked below.